Hi, it's James. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you could be here with us. Today we're going to talk about Matthew 21, verses 18 through 22. So let's get right to the text. In the morning, as he was returning to the city, he became hungry. And seeing a fig tree by the wayside, he went to it and found nothing on it, but only leaves. And he said to it, "May no fruit ever come from you again." And the fig tree withered at once. When the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, "How did the fig tree wither at once?" And Jesus answered them, "Truly I say to you, if you have faith and not doubt, you will not only do what has been done to the fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, 'Be taken up and thrown into the sea,' it will happen. And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith." So, got a lot to cover, even though it's just 5 verses. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, 5 verses. I believe there's a lot of good material here. And if you give me a second, I will pull up Sproul's commentary. Obviously, number 1, Jesus cursed the fig tree. You're like, well, that doesn't sound like a big deal. But when you look at what Sproul had to say, it'll make sense. He says this: "However, when he reached the tree, despite the abundance of leaves, he found no figs at all. He responded by doing something that was commonplace in the prophetic tradition of Old Testament Israel. He used that moment to give a dramatic prophetic object lesson. A parable not in words but in actions. He pronounced judgment on the tree, declaring that it would never again bear fruit. Under the power of that divine curse, the tree withered and died." So he curses the fig tree, and both Sproul and Boyce say the exact same thing about it, and the reason why is point number 2 is that Jesus made an object lesson about the spiritual state of Israel. So let's get right over to what James Montgomery Boyce had to say. And is it 452 or 453? Yeah, he's addressing the here we are. Unless we understand this, Jesus cursing the fig tree seems entirely out of character at best and petulant or mean at worst. We must not think that Jesus was simply angry at the tree and struck out against it like a child might throw down a cell phone and break it just because he can't make it work. Jesus was not being petulant. He was teaching an important lesson with 2 points. First, the religion of Israel, focused in her leaders, was not producing fruit. It was a case of blatant hypocrisy. Second, any religion like it will always wither up at last, becoming dry as a tree that is no longer nourished by its roots. So ultimately, what we talk about here on this channel has got to impact our lives. We trust in the Bible. We trust our roots are in God, and we need to bear fruit for Him. This is more than just head knowledge. That's why the podcast is called Live It Out with James Paul White. So it's not just, Jesus was using this fig tree as an object lesson to show that the folks in the temple were more focused on the outward appearance than they were in bearing fruit for God. And that's where our focus needs to be, is serving God out of a pure heart so that He can produce fruit in us and that we can do things that will ultimately glorify God. So, and number 3, I want to bring this up because a lot of the prosperity preachers will use the one from Mark, but he did mention in the verse. Let's go back to the verse real quick on my Kindle. He says, "If you have faith and not doubt, you will not only do what has been done to this fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, it will happen. And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith. My third point today is simply this. This is not about accumulating wealth. We don't serve God so we can have a big car, so we can have a big house, so that we can fly in a big private jet. We serve God so that in everything we do and say, we will glorify Him. How do I know this? Because 1 John 2:15 says, do not love the world or things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Now, I've been kind of hard on some of these tele-evangelists the last couple weeks. I will say this, some of them have been very generous in the past, where they've given Bibles and books to different prison ministries, and I commend them for doing that, and I say keep doing it. But if, truth be told, if Kenneth Copeland really cared about his students, he would sell his private plane and give away scholarships to this new Bible college that he has. We have to focus on glorifying God in everything we say and in everything we do. We are not here to accumulate wealth. We are not here on this earth to get rich. We're here on this earth. Once a person gets saved, we are here to glorify God in everything we do and in everything we say. And that means living in a modest way. Now, we don't need to be dirt poor, because we want to make sure our physical needs are met, but we don't want to be extremely wealthy and so you can actually go too far in either extreme and be unhealthy. As long as our physical needs are met, we can take care of our families, and then we can be generous. Because a lot of times what's happening in America is people will spend on credit, and then they've got lots of bills, and then they can't give as much as they really should at church, and then they resent giving, and then anytime the minister talks about giving, they resent that, and so then they leave the church and then go somewhere else. And so then the cycle starts all over again. They try a different church. They stay there for a while, but if the pastor talks about giving, then they'll leave and go somewhere else. And it's just, if you live within your means, then you can be generous and give with a cheerful heart, and you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So anyway, don't forget about the podcast. I'll put the information up on the board. I haven't had a whole lot of traffic at with the podcast, so I'm praying whether or not we should keep doing that or not, or just make a third video during the week. But I am telling you, I am committed 100% to putting good, solid biblical content on the internet. I want you to know that I love you guys. Especially my subscribers, and I'm going to keep working hard to put good, solid content on the internet. So I hope you have a good weekend. And try to stay cool, because it's going to be a hot summer. So until then, have a great day.